I'm sitting in the railway station, got a ticket for my destination. Ooh, I'm on a tour of one-night stands, my suitcase and guitar in hand, and every stop is neatly planned for a poet and a one-man band. Homeward bound, I wish I was homeward bound. Home, where my thoughts escaping, home where my music's playing, home where my love lies waiting silently for me. Oh, every day is an endless stream of cigarettes and magazines. Ooh. And each town looks the same to me, the movies and the factories. And every stranger's face I see reminds me that I long to be homeward bound. I wish I was homeward bound. Home, where my thoughts escaping, home where my music's playing, home where my love lies waiting silently for me, for me, for tonight I'll play my songs again, I'll play the game and I'll pretend. And but all my words come back to me in shades of mediocrity, like emptiness in harmony. I need someone to comfort me. Homeward bound, I wish I was homeward bound. Home, where my thoughts escaping, home where my music's playing, home where my love lies waiting silently for me. Oh, silently for me.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of It Might Get Personal. I'm David McCreath. Our guest today is Marian Call, accompanied by Seth Boyer, and they performed.
We played Homeward Bound by Simon and Garfunkel.
So why that song?
That song is all about my life. When I was a kid, I loved it because it's just an excellent song on one of my favorite albums growing up. Now that I'm an adult, I never dreamed it would happen, but that's how I live every day in Newtown, every day another show, every day, and it does, that song represents sort of the darker side of what I might occasionally think about a life on the road, and I just want to go home. This all looks the same. It's all, it's beautiful and melancholy, and I tend to be pretty happy and positive with life on the road, but sometimes you feel that way, and that song is such just an elegant, of all the road touring band songs, that one to me is the most elegant.
Yeah. I think that was one of like 4 albums that was constantly on in our house when I was growing up.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so and so you guys are actually touring right now.
We are touring right now. Different city every day.
and you've had a long week.
Yeah. A week ago today, I was in Austin. And on Wednesday, went to Albuquerque. And Friday, went to Phoenix. Saturday, went to LA. Sunday, went to Oakland. Monday, San Francisco. And now we're back. No, Monday, Sacramento.
Yeah.
Can't even remember. And next I go to Minneapolis or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's only 2 or 3 hours, right?
Yeah, it's a very quick drive.
Yeah. Yeah, we're touring a lot of the American West this summer, and it's a lot of like drive all day, arrive just before the show, try and find time to grab a bite of food, and then and get up and play, and afterwards go out and hang out with people, and then crash in bed and go, I should have answered some email. So.
And the couple of times that I've seen you, it's been at house concerts, or like the show in Oakland was at a game store. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that pretty common for you? Do you ever perform in clubs, like official clubs?
Seldom. I did in LA. I played at Genghis Cohen, and that was fun. I've played in clubs sometimes, but about 80-90% of the time, I find that there's something else going on to distract people, or else that I can't play a very long set. And I get through each town. I travel so much, but I still only get to a city once or twice a year, at best. Sometimes once every 2 or 3 years, or once every 5 years, And the kind of fans that I'm lucky enough to have are really dedicated, and they don't want to hear a 35-minute set at a club before someone else. That's not what they're in for. They're in for the whole evening. They want to hang out. They want to eat. They want to talk. They want their kids to come and dance around. And, it's really fun. So we just tend to go to spaces where we can control what happens, and where it's going to be quiet when it's music time, and where it's going to be party time when it's party time, where it's not going to cost people a lot of money, where they'll feel comfortable, and where we're not under a whole ton of pressure from the venue to start and end at this and that time, and where there's not a lot of background noise, Right. One of those things usually tends to be a problem at most clubs that we are at the level to have access to. Someday we'll rent tiny little theaters everywhere, and it'll be awesome. But until that time, I love house concerts. That's how music has always been performed since way before it was an industry. And I like going back to that. I feel comfortable there.
And you, was it Sunday night?
Yeah.
In Oakland? I can't even keep track of your schedule. I'm amazed you can. You had a little PA with you. Is that one that you haul around, or is that?
Yeah, just haul around one speaker. It's not ideal, but it fits.
Right.
In the car we have just a little one speaker mixer, one mic setup. I have a whole bunch more gear. I could probably outfit most of a band if I had to. Because, things break, and
Right.
and I have extra stuff in case we get an impulse to record things, and sometimes we do. But mostly we just have a really light kit. If we're playing a bigger venue, usually they have a sound system, or
Right.
I just rent an extra speaker or two. And we keep it light, keep it easy, and we have everything we need in the car, even granola.
And I understand a pie.
Yes, we have a pie today.
That's great.
Yes, I visited my great aunt, and she made us an apple pie. And so we are prepared to deal with the leftovers of that later today.
Delightful. So the fact that you're playing house concerts or unusual venues brings up the question of how you get people to your shows. And
a lot of work.
Yeah.
Word of mouth, and a lot of work on the promotion side for me, contacting people directly. It's not about posters and flyers are almost a waste of money for me. It's about emailing and Facebooking and tweeting with friends who've been there before.
Right.
And inviting them to bug their friends about it, right? And I mean, ideally, if I'm doing good enough shows, then they're going to want to talk to people about it. So that's kind of my bar for myself of where my performance has to be. If they're not compelled to tell other people about it, I need to up my game. But so far, people have been great. They've really turned out well on this tour. It's been great. My concerts are very small, but for me, 30 to 50 people a night is ideal, and that's where we're at. That's a sustainable number, and it's a really nice concert. Seeing a show with that number of people feels so good.
Yeah.
It's really, really fun.
It's very...
Yeah.
There's no sense of separation.
Yeah, there's no sense of separation, and it's kind of a small enough crowd that even they can meet each other, and that I love that. I love seeing that happen. And
so you've built your career on the internet, basically.
Well, I built it because of the internet. I wouldn't have started if the reality of music hadn't shifted. I started doing music as a career, or I recorded my first album because I saw MySpace and was like, oh, hey, that could be a music thing. That makes sense to me. I get it. I could do this, I saw very clearly, like, this is the only epiphany I've ever had, so I got to get some mileage out of it. I felt like I just saw through that into a world where there were no ladders to climb, there were no executives to impress, there was no moonshot involved. It was just work. And work I can handle. So,
sure.
and that's how it's turned out. It's really hard work. It's a hustle. The industry keeps changing all the time. It's a whole new field every year, feels like, but I'm small enough and nimble enough I can adjust and keep working. And everyone who is or wants to be in the kind of pro indie musician game seems to be looking for the perfect solution that will make music not be a really difficult career. Like they'll make it not a hustle. Oh my God, Kickstarter, I'm not gonna have to work so hard anymore.
Right.
Oh my God, Patreon, I'm not gonna have to work so hard anymore. No, I mean, those are great tools, and I've used them and plan to use them, and I live on patronage. But the promise that someday music will not be a hustle, or that it ever was not a hustle, like those are both really silly premises to me, and I reject them both. I just think it's hard, and it's going to keep being hard, and so I just try and work a lot.
Yeah, I have this theory that the mid to late 20th century, in when people are writing about the history of music, is going to be looked at as this really bizarre aberration. Where suddenly the corporations were in control of all of the music, and not the musicians themselves.
Oh yeah, and when you look at all of music history, that becomes especially apparent. That it was like, this is a really weird period in history, when and corporate entities and performing rights organizations and all of these like legal snafus and sending your stuff off to the government to copyright it, and just really strange ideas that we have right now. And I think that a lot of those will not last as long as the act of music itself, and the act of just traveling from town to town and singing songs and gathering a bunch of people around a bunch of food, and that's as old as people are, and I like that.
That's great. So just to touch back on this real quick, you said that you didn't have the idea to be a musician until you saw MySpace. Was it that literal, or was it?
Well, I studied music for 20 years before that. Right. So my family's all musicians. That's the family trait. It's sort of like being raised in a family of plumbers. You know, that's a skill we had and a discipline we had from the time we were kids. And it was nice because we had a very practical relationship with music. There was none of that stage connect. Like, oh my God, there it is. There's the the sort of weird tortured stage worship thing that a lot of people get who didn't just see it as a job. And I just saw it as a job growing up. And it was the best job. It's a wonderful job. I love it. But it was also just the family trade. So I had the skills. I went to college. I was a music major. And then I got out of college and was like, well, that's funny. Now what am I going to do? So I never dreamed I'd be using my major. I'm pretty lucky. But yeah, so when I saw MySpace, I thought, oh, I could apply my skills this way, and then I could do something besides basically administrative work.
Right.
And yeah.
All right. And you seem to be doing very well at it.
It depends on your metric, but yeah, depends on your metric.
You keep doing it.
I keep doing it. I keep doing it full time.
You haven't stopped yet.
Keep doing it.
And so that first album was in
2007.
Okay.
2006, 2007. I got my dates wrong the other day. I can't remember now. Back then, first album came out, and within it was just a side project at the time. And then I realized pretty quickly that if I wanted to sell the 1,000 CDs I had just bought, I better shift to full time. And but it also seemed very possible. Like there was a direct connection between the hours I put in working on selling stuff on the internet and working on booking concerts and the money I earned. And that was new. Like, I think that's the new thing after this weird late 20th century aberration, is that if the product is good enough, then the hours you spend hustling to promote it equate to dollars, and you can kind of figure out an hourly rate, like what, and then if you're not earning enough, you just put more hours in on that thing. It's not quite that simple, but it definitely was in the early days as things were getting just really heating up and getting exciting. Right. And now there's a little more chance involved. People are kind of saturated media-wise. Streaming is still kind of a variable. We don't know exactly how that's going to impact stuff. It hasn't seemed to impact me too much so far. I'm still selling more CDs than digital, and I always have. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. And I think a lot of touring artists I hear are still selling more CDs than digital music. On a lower level. Like, I mean, it's probably not true for I don't know, somebody who's super famous. But
yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. I think people buying CDs has to do with them being at the show.
And wanting to take a thing home. You can't sign a download. So you can sign a download card, but it's kind of anticlimactic. Getting back to songwriting real quick, I'm just curious about what your songwriting consists of. or how?
Words and music mostly.
All right, that's us.
All right, Greg Popovich. Jeez.
Sorry.
No, I'm just curious. I'm just curious because I know that you work with multiple musicians when you're touring, and they are all probably going to have their own slightly different way of playing songs. So I'm just curious how you write the song. Do you write on guitar?
I write in my head. I don't really play any instruments very well right now. I used to play piano, but it's been a long time. But I studied composition for a long time in music theory, so I can mostly write in my head, and I know what I want. I know how it's structured. I know how to communicate it to other musicians pretty well. I can write scores. I mostly don't because in real time at a gig, it's a lot easier to just read chords and words. So, but I don't know. Seth and Scott and Brian and Jordan, all my guitarists, Laura, they all play really differently. And I love that. It keeps me from getting bored, and it means I can write. They've all inspired me to write stuff I wouldn't otherwise write because their textures are a little different, or their rhythmic take, or their melodic take, or their riffs they sometimes write are a little different. And I love to just go with that. It's really, really fun. Different interpretations of the songs by the folks playing with me have frequently just changed the whole character of what I'm doing. But the raw process really is just all in here. I mean, it's very internal. Usually I don't work on a song with a guitarist or an accompanist until it's pretty much done. And there'll be a few tweaks, but not much. And so it's mostly internal. I've done a couple co-writes, mostly extremely goofy short songs, and they're a lot of fun.
All right, cool. I guess that's all the questions I had.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we
That's
can
all
keep
right.
talking.
You should ask Seth some things. He knows more about me than I know about me. So.
You spend a lot of time with someone, in a professional capacity.
Yeah,
I think it's amazing that Marian can write entire songs, whole cloth, in her head without the security of having an instrument to kind of a little bit hide behind. You can sit there and strum or noodle or just like plink on a piano for a while and feel secure in the fact that something might come out, and if something doesn't, it's okay. I know that I would feel extremely frustrated if I sat there and tried to think and had that process and then nothing came out, or it's like, oh, those chords suck. That melody's terrible. And that came out of my brain. It wasn't me just goofing around on the instrument,
Way to go, brain.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, there's a lot of songs you never hear too. They stay in the
sure.
journal because they came out of my brain and they were not useful at all. They're really really dumb.
It's so much fun because
I rhymed heart and we will never part once, and then I was like, nope, that's embarrassing.
So can you look back in your journal at a song that didn't maybe turn into a full song and remember what the melody was? That kind of, do you write it down that carefully?
Words come first to me, so I really I finish the words to a song often almost completely before I have a melody or a hook. And once in a while I get the hook first, but that's very rare, and it always comes with words. It's never just a melody thing. That's not me. I'm a words person, and if I weren't doing music, or if I in the future if I do something else on the side, it would probably be like a writing project. So, but the words come first for me, and the music is more of a. I really admire the musicians where it comes out really naturally, and you can feel that it comes out really naturally. Because I'm a constructionist. I think through what the texture should be, and I'm a little bit left brain about the composition mostly. I'm like, what meter is it going to be? How is the structure? How is the rhythmic drive? How is the, I kind of figure those things out in advance instead of just letting it come. And then the melody, frequently I'll compose, and then I'll try and think back through all my other songs. And then I'll look through my iTunes at what I've been listening to lately and go, oh, I totally plagiarized that. And then just totally rewrite the melody with a bunch of other, so it's doing a bunch of different things that are not the same, or I'll shift the rhythm or something like that so that it's a very different song. But after 6 albums, I'm starting to sound the same, and I have to really deconstruct and reconstruct musically to make sure, I'm not going to write the same lyrics ever, but I have to be careful.
Right.
And frequently I'll come up, I just came up with a gorgeous song, gorgeous chord progression, gorgeous melody, and realized I had exactly rewritten Perilous Road, one of my songs from Something Fierce. So, text
is so good.
I know, it's so great. I'm literally copying myself note for note. So I'm reworking that one right now. The lyrics are great. I'm really excited about it, but it needs to sound not like Perilous Road,
Right.
you know? So I'm just thinking, okay, so we're going to a new harmonic world. We're going to, we'll stay in 6, but it's going to be a different texture and a little more waltzy and all of that. So it's very, it's like Lego music. It's Lego
All right.
music. Yeah.
I wouldn't sell yourself too short on the premeditated, constructed thing, because it's so much fun as a guitarist to get to play music written by such a music dork. There are changes in there that I wouldn't get to play unless I were sitting down with a bunch of jazz musicians and looking at some of the deeper cuts in a real book. Right. And so because of that, I get to go all over the place, thematically and genre wise in one night, and that's it keeps me on my toes and makes me a better guitarist, which is good because I never practice enough, so never can.
Yeah.
All right. And then one last thing that I remembered. There's one line in Homeward Bound where he says a show set up for a poet and a one-man band. I've always wondered if that's 2 people or 1 person.
I think for Simon and Garfunkel, it might have been 2 and 1. I'm not sure.
That was a dig on Garfunkel.
It was a little bit of a dig, I'm sure. Yeah,
I'm a one-man band, and you, Mr. Art, are you're some poet.
I think it's just really good scansion myself.
Yeah.
I think the words line up nicely.
They do.
They do. For a poet and a one-man band, and the and in the band are nice, and then the consonant and then the soft vowels. It's nice. I like it. I really feel that way frequently, actually, because I'm the one who writes the songs, and the person traveling with me is the one actually playing the music, and the road every day is such an experience. Like, we see stuff that nobody else gets to see. And it's really fun, and it's really the one line I will really disagree with in that song is "Each town looks the same to me."
Oh,
the more I travel, the more different they look. Subtly different.
Yeah.
People look the same everywhere. I mean, people behave the same everywhere. It's like, oh, people are such bad drivers here. Oh, people are so polite here, or so rude here, or so. That I really find that people are people everywhere. But cities have such character, and really picking apart that character and understanding geography, how it impacts us, is really interesting to me. I could write a lot. I have written a lot, and I will write a lot more, I'm sure, about how place is, it's a function of who we are, but it's bigger than that, and it really impacts us, and we don't have a lot of control over how it grows. That interests me a lot. It's so fun to be in San Francisco.
It's an interesting city. Yeah. Especially, we've all 3 lived in Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And San Francisco is different.
Very different. Yeah, I went to school down here, so I lived here a long time. But Alaska. The reason I write about Alaska so much is the place has such an impact on you. But I think that's true of an awful lot of places. The more I travel, the more I just kind of fall in love with the places I go. Can't help it. Saccharine like that. But it's an amazing country, and it's an amazing world. And traveling. You do get tired, like that song says, but my songs about traveling would have more to do with how exhausting yet humanizing it is. So, there's my answer.
Great. That's great. All right. We'll wrap it up. I'm David McCreath. This is Marian Call. That's Seth Boyer. This has been It Might Get Personal, and we'll see you next time.